They say the world is too complex for one person to change. I never believed that. Not when I could see the patterns, the hidden rot, the way certain people left stains on everything they touched. I work in data, numbers, trends, digital footprints. Most people think that means spreadsheets and late nights. But for me, it's always been about something deeper. I see the world as a network of signals, and I know how to read the noise. It started as a side project. I built an algorithm, just for fun, to see if I could predict who would cause the most harm to society. Not the obvious ones, the ones everyone already knows to avoid, but the ones who slip through the cracks, the ones who smile at their neighbors, who post pictures of their dogs, who seem harmless until you look closer. My code sifted through terabytes of data, social media posts, purchase histories, search queries, even the way people wrote their emails. I trained it to spot the patterns that no one else could see. The first time the algorithm flagged someone, I thought it was a fluke. A middle-aged man, quiet, lived alone, worked at a hardware store. But the data was clear. He had a history of online harassment, strange late-night purchases, a string of deleted accounts. I watched him for weeks, just to be sure. He fit the profile perfectly. When he disappeared, no one seemed to notice. The world kept turning, a little bit cleaner. After that, it became routine. The algorithm would flag a target, I'd verify the data, and then I'd act. I was careful, always careful. No patterns, no connections, nothing to tie me to the missing people. I kept my life simple, my routines predictable. I was invisible, just another face in the crowd. Sometimes I'd see the aftermath, a news report, a missing poster, a family searching for answers. I never lingered. I didn't need to. My work wasn't about recognition or revenge. It was about balance, about making sure the worst people never got the chance to do their worst. But then the algorithm changed. It started flagging people who didn't fit the pattern. A young woman who volunteered at an animal shelter. An old man who spent his days feeding pigeons in the park. A teenager who played video games and posted memes. The data was there. Strange connections, odd spikes in activity, but nothing concrete. I double-checked everything, ran the numbers again and again. The algorithm insisted these were the threats. I hesitated for the first time. I watched them just like I'd watched the others. They seemed normal, ordinary, but the algorithm had never been wrong before. I reminded myself that I'd built it to see what I couldn't. Maybe there was something beneath the surface, something I couldn't see. I trusted the data. I always had. The world around me started to shift. I noticed people watching me, on the subway, in the grocery store, in the lobby of my building. My neighbors stopped making small talk. My boss called me into his office, asked if everything was all right. I told him I was just tired, too much work, not enough sleep. He nodded, but I could see the suspicion in his eyes. I started to feel the pressure, like the walls were closing in. My apartment felt smaller, the air heavier. I checked the locks twice, 3 times, every night. I wiped my devices, changed my passwords, rerouted my traffic through layers of proxies. Still, I felt exposed, vulnerable. The algorithm kept sending me names, more and more, faster than before. I couldn't keep up. I started to wonder if it was broken, if someone had tampered with the code. I checked the logs, the source files, every line of code. Everything was as I'd left it. The only thing that had changed was the output. One night I followed a new target, a woman in her 30s, worked as a nurse, lived with her husband and 2 kids. The algorithm flagged her as a high risk, but I couldn't see why. I watched her for days, tracked her routines, her interactions. She was kind, patient, the sort of person who made the world better, not worse. But the data was clear. The algorithm insisted. I stood outside her house, hidden in the shadows, watching the lights go out one by one. I waited just like I always did. But something felt wrong. The street was too quiet, the air too still. I heard footsteps behind me, soft but deliberate. I turned, but there was no one there. Just the wind rustling the leaves. I left that night. I told myself it was caution, not fear. I never went back. The next day I found a note slipped under my door. No words, just a single printed line of code. one I recognized from my own algorithm. Someone new. Someone was watching me. I tried to act normal, to keep up appearances. I went to work, smiled at my coworkers, answered emails, but I could feel the eyes on me everywhere I went. My phone buzzed with unknown numbers, my inbox filled with strange messages. I started seeing the same faces in different places. On the street, in the coffee shop, outside my building. I knew I was being followed. I tried to shut down the algorithm to erase the evidence. But every time I deleted a file, another would appear in its place. My computer seemed to have a mind of its own, spitting out new names, new targets, faster and faster. I unplugged it, smashed the hard drive, but it didn't matter. The data was out there somewhere beyond my control. One morning I woke up to the sound of sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through my window. I heard footsteps pounding up the stairs, voices shouting my name. I didn't run. There was nowhere left to go. They found everything. The code, the logs, the lists of names. They asked me questions, but I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke for itself. Now I sit in a room with no windows, no clocks, no way to measure the passing of time. They watch me, just like I watch them. I hear their voices through the walls, their footsteps in the hall. I know what they think of me. I know what I am. The world is still turning, a little bit cleaner, but I'm not part of it anymore. They keep me under observation, always behind glass, always with a clipboard in hand. Sometimes they ask if I understand what I've done, if I feel anything about the people on my list. I don't answer. There's nothing to say. I watch them the way I used to watch my targets, studying their habits, their tells, the way they look at me when they think I'm not paying attention. I know they're afraid, even if they won't admit it. The room is cold, the light's never quite bright enough. I hear the hum of the cameras, the soft click of the locks. Meals come through a slot in the door, always at the same time, always the same food. I keep track of the days by the taste of breakfast, the way the shadows move across the floor. Sometimes I think about the algorithm, about the way it kept working even after I tried to destroy it. Maybe it's still out there, flagging names, making lists. Maybe someone else will find it, pick up where I left off. They say I'll never leave this place. They say I'm too dangerous, too unpredictable. I don't argue. I know how the world works. I know what happens to people like me. I watch the staff come and go, their routines as predictable as any data set. I wonder if the algorithm would have flagged them, if it would have seen the cracks beneath their smiles. At night, I lie awake and listen to the silence. I think about the people who vanished, the empty spaces they left behind. I don't see their faces. I don't remember their names. They were just data points, outliers, noise in the system. The world is quieter now, more orderly. That was always the goal. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the glass, pale, thin, eyes too bright in the dim light. I look ordinary. That's the part that always surprises them. They expect monsters to look like monsters. But I was always just a man with a talent for patterns, a knack for seeing what others missed. There's talk of a trial, of evidence and testimony and justice. I don't care. The outcome is inevitable. They'll lock me away, erase my name, pretend I never existed. The world will move on, a little bit safer, a little bit more afraid. I hear footsteps in the hall, the jingle of keys, the low murmur of voices. They're coming for me again, another round of questions, another evaluation. I sit up, smooth the wrinkles from my shirt, and wait. I know how this ends. I've always known. The algorithm was never wrong. It just saw too much. And now, so do they.